Welcome to Open Tables. With your hosts, Cynthia Sue Larson.
That it's okay for everybody to change. It's okay to let things go. And that's really powerful.
Christopher Anatra.
The universe is based on commerce. You know me as the quantum businessman.
Jerry Hicks.
I feel like I've woken up in a parallel dimension where everybody's exactly the same. They look the same memories generally speaking, but they're different.
Shane Robinson.
Nobody has all the answers, so everybody's welcome to share their ideas, and it really expands our consciousness when we do that.
And Kimberly Lynn Hansen.
Well, get your hearts up.
Open Tables. Unique perspectives for a new view of reality.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Happy St. Patrick's Day from the IMEC Board and International Mandela Effect Conference team. We're very glad to have every last one of you guys here. My name is Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, for those that don't know. And it is an honor and pleasure, like I said, to have you here. And I am the founder and treasurer of the International Mandela Effect Conference. And I could not have done any of this without my amazing team of board members here, starting with our president, Miss Cynthia Sue Larson. You want to unmute, Miss Cynthia?
Classic error. Yes. So glad to see everybody today. So glad that we've got such a great community talking about the Mandela effect.
Thank you, Miss Cynthia. Then we've got Mr. Christopher Anatra, our vice president.
Hey, everybody. Looking forward to a really great show today. We've got a lot of cool stuff for everyone, so it's going to be a good one.
And then we've got our secretary, Mr. Shane Robinson, also known as Unbiased and On the Fence.
What's up, everybody? Looking forward to it.
And like I said, I am the treasurer, Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. Before we get into introducing our special guest here and getting this party started, if I could have the disclaimer on the screen, please. And we will go through the legal important stuff and we can get into the fun, ladies and gentlemen, because we got a pot of gold for you guys tonight. I guarantee it. Disclaimer, the content you are about to watch is meant for thought and consideration. Please be respectful of each other and opinions shared. This is a safe space to express thoughts, ideas, and information. Please note that no copyright infringement is intended with regard to inclusion of short excerpts of material that are included in accordance with fair use under Section 107 of the Copyright Act. Thank you so much to our producer, Heather, behind the scenes. She does an amazing job. And I would like to now introduce our special guest, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Eileen Colts. You guys know her. You love her. I know I do. She is absolutely amazing. And I have totally lost my document here, so give me just a half second to get it pulled back up. My stalling has failed, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Eileen grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, Cairo, and the coconut jungles of Trinidad and Tobago. She opened the first expatriate nursery school in Madi, Egypt, while living there in the early 1980s. Fortunate to land her first post-university job at the Chicago NPR affiliate radio station in 1985, she left for a European network 5 years later as the station's morning news anchor. Eileen initially joined the German National Broadcasting Network Radio Deutsche Welle, and please forgive me if I just slaughtered that.
No, pretty good.
Appreciate that. As a news director and host for their international English service. Eventually, she left to freelance report Eastern European news based in Cologne, Prague, and Bucharest for European, Canadian, and American radio networks. Through her professional life, involved media. Though her professional life involved media, if my eyes would work, we'd be in a much better position right now. Her private passion focused on her family, world religions, and one of my favorite topics, as you guys know, quantum physics. Looking for God in the meaning of life, she was certain it would cross the boundaries of the mystical with the scientific. It's something else I also love to do. She experienced her first Mandela effect in 1995 with Nelson Mandela springing back to life after she went out to interview him in South Africa in 1985 and recalled him dying in prison shortly thereafter around 1987. Eileen's mother experienced MEs since the 1970s, so she considers it normal, natural, evolutionary, quantum awakening of human consciousness. Quote, the new human will easily understand this phenomenon and so much more. This is the beginning of a major evolutionary change. Consider it a marker or a signpost for generations to come. When did people first start to see how their collective thoughts affect matter? When they started seeing the Mandela effect, end quote. From her book, Mandela Effect, Friend or Foe, with co-authors Paulo Pinto, Vanessa VA, and IMEC's very own Shane Robinson. Wow, what a mouthful. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and pleasure to introduce the one, the only, the great Eileen Colts. Thank you so much for being here, Eileen.
Holy moly, that is amazing. Thank you, guys. It's always strange to hear your own bio back. You know, it's like hearing your singing voice. You know, you think it sounds one way and it's like, whoa. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, it is a heck of a bio, and you are definitely experienced in a large variety of expertise from radio and news to quantum awakenings and human consciousness and quantum physics, and you definitely covered the gambit of studies.
I whatever I did in life, like when I was in news, I would then focus my private time on spirituality. I would always like look at the opposite of what I was doing daily. I don't know why, just to keep things interesting, maybe.
Definitely. And we've got some sponsors for today's show. Before we get into kind of just one-on-one with Miss Eileen here. So I would like to now turn it over to Mr. Christopher Anatra, and if I could get the the sponsors up on the screen, please.
Yeah, so this slide that we're looking at right now is showing some of the things we're going to cover in our agenda today. We're going to be getting updates from each of the other IMEC board members, what's going on in our lives and so forth. Then we're going to talk about some very interesting manned animals coming up. White animals, so many of them are appearing on the timeline, rainbow animals, and our St. Patrick's Day special of the golden animals, pot of gold. Let's see what happens with those. So that's what these are some of the things we have planned to talk about, and there's a few other very interesting things we're going to talk about as well.
Thank you, Chris. So, yeah, let's go around definitely and get some quick updates, see what everybody has been up to. Starting once again with Miss Cynthia Sue Larson.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been working mostly on editing the book it's been a slow process to bring this next book out. It's going to be about the Mandela effect and its society. So I've just going at the pace of the book, and anybody that's an author would probably understand how that can vary. It can go really quickly, really slowly. So it's at a slow phase right now, but I'm still publishing my monthly Reality Shifters news every month, and that's just been going for more than 20 years. So it's a great archive of lots of Mandela effect and reality shift stories published every single month, documenting where they're happening around the world. And it's one of the biggest, most complete, most comprehensive archives on the topic that I know of. So I encourage people to check it out at realityshifters.com and subscribe to the newsletter. That's about it for my update.
And I get that newsletter every month, guys. And let me tell you, it is a joy to read through that. It really is very uplifting and brightening for sure. And next up, we're going to go to the Vice President, Mr. Christopher Quantum Businessman Anatra.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm working on some very interesting projects related to some additional videos I'm creating. I just recently released a set of these 5 fringe videos, and a lot has happened since I released them. So now I'm working on one I'm calling the Fringe Epilogue. So it basically is to report on what's been happening, especially with some endangered and extinct animals seeming to start to make comebacks. We'll see how that ties into things. And also too, I've been getting messages from Earth related to the way it works is if you do good with a mission, Earth will give you more missions. So I'm putting together these short videos called Save the Animals. And the first one's going to be about the northern white rhino. There's only 2 left. There are 2 females left, and they're older, versus the southern white rhino, where there's 20,000 of those. So that's one thing I'm going to be talking about. Also very cool, I'm doing my next big act. It's called Act 5. It's about art and statues with crystal eyes. And like, what are these statues with crystal eyes? Like, why did they just appear onto the timeline? What do they mean? And how is that related to the capstone from the Giza pyramid being removed and Earth's grid system changing? So when I read into it, I see chess moves and counter chess moves, and I'm going to be tying those things all together. So really excited about that. So probably the next month or so, those videos start coming out.
So you guys, if you haven't checked it out already, what was that comment just up on the screen there? Luther Vessel says, love the Fringe vids. And if you love the Fringe vids, definitely check out the Symphony of Reality series. Are we off of intermission yet? Have we come back off of intermission, Chris?
Well, we've got the Fringe Epilogue. That's kind of like I'm squeezing one more thing into the intermission. And then after that, we begin with Act 5. I've got at least 2 scenes planned with Act 5 that are related to art. And then it ends with Act 8. So yeah, I'm getting it all together. Hopefully by the end of the summer, it's all going to be released, and it'll just give people another perspective, another way to expand their consciousness, and another way of looking at things that they may not have ever realized or imagined before.
Well, guys, definitely check out the Symphony of Realities on the Quantum Businessman YouTube page. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, another YouTuber, well-known, Mr. Shane Robinson, Mr. Unbiased and On Defense. What's going on in the unbiased world, my friend?
Oh, man, I've been doing research into paranormal stuff. You're going to love this next video I'm working on, research into sort of trying to capture apparitions and things like that. And so that's been a lot of fun, and it's just a lot of time pouring through frames and frames of video footage and stuff like that. But I'm putting something together where everybody can sort of try it out, and it's part of a further, I guess, exploration into randomness and how I think that what appears to be random isn't random at all, and we can sort of tap into that a little bit and get some interesting results. So, and of course the YouTube channel. In fact, Eileen's joining us for this Saturday at 2 o'clock Eastern time. Yeah, and we're going to do our Power of One show where we chat for a while and then combine our power of intentions to change the world.
That is absolutely excellent. So, guys, check out, you said Saturday.
Eileen,
this
Saturday.
Our special guest tonight will be joining Mr. Unbiased and On the Fence, Shane Robinson. And I also forgot to add to Eileen Colt's bio, she was also a speaker at the last International Mandela Effect Conference. So there we go with that, as well as Miss Jan Ingalls Smith says, hello, Eileen. So glad to see you
Jan.
and the rest of the gang, too. Hello, Miss Jan. Been seeing you put out some great content over there on your YouTube. Also, Jan. Let's go ahead and get started with the fun St. Patrick's Day show this evening, ladies and gentlemen, with our sponsors. As we've seen in the agenda, we're going to start with the white animals and move towards the St. Patrick's pot of gold.
Hey, Jerry, did you want to mention your show just real quick?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I could brag about me a little bit if I have to. Sorry, I'm so trying to get the show going, and I know we're such limited time. I keep skipping things. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Jerry Hicks, of course, also known as the Dark Wolf. You can find me on Rippin' Common Sense Radio, the rippinrabbithole.com. That is RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. Make sure you go over there and check our radio shows out. I do a show every Wednesday and Thursday night where we discuss general paranormal topics from the Mandela effect to ghosts, UFOs, and everything in between. If it's paranormal, I guarantee you I cover it. This week we're going to be, of course, having our St. Patrick's Day special tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central over there, as well as our radio channel, Rippin' Rabbit Hole on YouTube, and then we will upload the rest to our channel afterwards. And then tomorrow night we're going to be talking about musicians and UFOs and the interesting link between the two. So definitely something you guys are going to enjoy. Check it out if you're interested. It is a radio show. It is like legit FCC ruled radio. We are on AM, FM stations across the world. So we offer it on YouTube as a gesture to everybody who would like to see it there. Definitely come on over, hang out with us, check it out. Check out the rippinrabbithole.com. And I really appreciate it, guys.
Yay. Awesome.
You know, the one thing I stink at is bragging about me.
We'll help you. We'll keep you honest.
I appreciate it, guys. And I would also appreciate if we could go ahead and our wonderful producer, Heather in the background, does an amazing job back there for us, keeping this show rolling. And I know as chaotic as I can get with my wording sometimes, she does a great job of keeping up and decoding my string of babble. So open discussion here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
This is the white buffalo. What is the importance here, Miss Cynthia?
Gosh, I want to take this one away because look behind me. You can see this picture that's always here behind me when I do most of these videos. That is White Buffalo Calf Maiden. It's a reprint of an original painting done by Ruby Lee Long, a great artist who I know personally. And this is a very meaningful picture for me because if you look at the picture, you can see it's this beckoning kind of maybe it's hard to see, but it's a beckoning, inviting expression on the white buffalo calf maiden. And she is extremely important to the Native American populations, especially the legend of the Lakota Sioux, which tells of this maiden having come down to earth like out of the clouds, and she met two braves. One was not very respectful, was basically doing, hey, baby, baby, talking not respectfully. And the other one was very respectful. The one that was less respectful ended up in a cloud of smoke, and then all that was left were a pile of bones. The respectful one invited the white buffalo calf maiden back to the village and the chief and the peoples, and she shared with them the 7 ways to pray and speak again with spirit, because that had been lost at that point in time. One of the many things she brought was the peace pipe. And then as she left, she had a spectacular exit as well. She became first, transformed herself into a black buffalo, and then a yellow buffalo, then a red buffalo, and finally a white buffalo, which is extremely symbolic, representing all of the people of the earth, and also symbolizing that she would return. There would be a golden age returning to all of humanity when we start seeing the white buffalo return. So here we have, just last month, yet another one of these very rare white buffalo. They used to be considered 1 in 10 million, but we've had several of these white buffalo now over the last decade or so, since the Mandela effect has become so much more popular and more people are becoming aware of it.
That is so cool.
That is very interesting. So we've seen a rise in these white buffalo being born. Then you say, how many is this since the last decade or so?
I don't know, but there have been a lot of them. They started more than 10 years ago, I think, or maybe about 10 years ago, right about the time when the Mandela effect community was really coming forward, right about the time we started hearing about the Mandela effect. When the term became popular, I think that was coincidental with the first white buffalo. So to me, they're very related phenomena.
That is very interesting. Anybody else have anything to add to this?
Just that I'm seeing more and more white animals appearing in the wild, My black ducks with kind of a red turkey head have now got white wings, pure white wings. So when they open them, they look like a hybrid cross between a swan and a black duck. So I'm just waiting for their whole bodies to turn white.
A swan duck.
A swan duck
swuck.
on my lake, my pond.
A swan duck. They're just
I'm gonna
making
get
words up
pictures
on
for
the
you
fly.
guys.
Here we go.
There's some combo words there, Jerry.
There we go.
Swan duck.
Just see how many words we can smash together and how nonsensical we can get. Speaking of nonsensical and really wild, what's our next sponsor on the list here? Albino kangaroos, ladies and
Wow.
gentlemen. Extremely rare. 1 out of 100,000 are born white. They're bred in the Wildlife Sanctuary of Australia, and out of 50 million, only 500 are white. Chris, you got anything to add to this, sir?
I just didn't have any idea that there were 50 million kangaroos in Australia. That's a lot of kangaroos. That's the biggest thing that shocked me with this slide.
Are there more kangaroos than people in Australia? Are they the actual citizens?
The original city, yeah.
That's funny.
500 are white. That's still a pretty good portion of the population, though, that's pure albino. And it's a theme we're starting to see more and more. When we were kids, we'd go to the zoo. You might have, one albino snake, maybe an albino zebra, and that was about it. There wasn't really a large number of albino animals as I remember growing up. I don't know about you guys.
No, that's true.
So Cynthia, as our resident scientist, is there a reason why they're losing the melanin, the color in their bodies? Like, what does that tie into?
Well, that would get into biology, and I don't know the answer to that question, but it's a good one. It does seem like it's perhaps from a paranormal metaphysical standpoint, we would say there's a changing of the frequencies and the vibration. That's not quantum physics talk. That's more metaphysics.
That makes sense, though, that vibration affects color,
Yes.
or affects what our eyes see as color.
We have
Or
a
it
lot.
could be symbolic as a sign of cleansing and clearing the energies and fresh starting white, starting pure.
Purity.
Yeah, coming up on the age, or as the age we've entered into being the age of Aquarius, the age of knowing, pure knowing, it very well could be connected to that fresh start, that new age that is starting from the white, moving maybe perhaps to a color scheme, as we may start to see here through our slides as we continue to move along through the different ones here. Next up, we have white buck. Chris, what is the white buck?
This picture was actually taken from someone in Wisconsin from their backyard. So they were in their backyard and they saw this white buck approach and they had to take a picture. And yeah, it's very, very rare. And doing some research in it, I found that in Wisconsin, where this one showed up, it's actually illegal to kill an all-white deer. So this guy should be protected from hunters, you would imagine. So I thought that was really interesting. And I wanted to add something too about these white animals that I've been finding from the type of research I do and the way the things, that get downloaded to me. But a lot of the white animals are what's considered super protectors. So like in one of the fringe videos I made, I talked about the white giraffe was like a super protector of the galaxy. And the white rhino is a super protector of time and space. So yeah, these white animals, regardless of how you look at it, are really, really a positive thing to be showing up in the timeline, because I've never seen so many white animals appearing as they are now. In fact, there was another one that appeared that I was tempted to add another slide to. It was quadruplet white bears were born. So it was 4 white bears, and they're just going to be introduced. I think bears are, or maybe it was a panther, I can't remember, but it was very rare for them to be quadruplets on top of everything else. So
that is amazing, I gotta say. And shout out to Wisconsin. That's where our radio show is, and I love that they've made that illegal to hunt the all-white deer to protect the animal. I think that is absolutely amazing. So shout out to that. That's 100%. I like that.
Love it.
That's cool.
So yeah, they are becoming more and more found in the wild more so than when we were growing up.
For
All
sure.
right. Next up.
Casper.
Okay, guys. I've never seen a white dolphin. Have any of you guys ever seen a white dolphin?
I thought it was a beluga when I first looked at it. It just, that
That's what-
pure white.
That's what my first impression was too, because you expect belugas, but I've never seen a white dolphin.
And this particular dolphin made its first appearance in, I think, 2017 in Monterey Bay. So, but again, I never heard of it until just recently. It just came into my reality.
That's
And
what
they
I
don't-
was thinking too. Yeah, we should have heard of it a few years ago. It would have been a big deal. I live in California. I didn't hear about it.
Well, here's the thing. Didn't we had a time when these pink dolphins came out?
That's what
I remember that.
Yes.
There's some kind of a river dolphin, right? In South America, Shane?
You would think we would have noticed it then, though. That's, it's kind of like when I looked into the Rainbow Mountains, it was in one place, and then I went to show somebody a month later, and it's like in 3 locations. I'm like, wait a minute, it was just in China a month ago. How did they pop up elsewhere? That's so crazy.
And for people who are new to the Mandela effect, this is a typical classic move with Mandela effect, where suddenly something has been there for, in this case, like 5 years or 6 years. But for a lot of us, we've never seen this before. And that's amazing. Or what, I guess 2017, so it's only been 4 years. But still, we would have heard about it. And with all the pink dolphin talk, especially.
Right. When that became a thing, you would have think somebody would have went, "Oh, guys, you think pink's something? Check this out."
Exactly.
But have we seen this now? Are we seeing a trend from one color to another? Then as we're going to move on through here, we're going to see a little bit more, but to another. And are we seeing a color trend start to move through the Mandela effect?
Yeah,
That's a good question.
like it started with rainbow beaches, rainbow trees, rainbow mountains, and then all the white animals started appearing. And I guess we have in store for us gold animals coming up, which I haven't seen yet.
Well, you mentioned the pink animals too. There was the pink dolphin.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a couple other pink animals that started popping up all of a sudden?
Yep.
There
There's a blue
pink-
wave as well.
There was a blue wave. There definitely was a blue wave.
Or all sorts of blue stuff. Blue bananas, or wasn't
Oh,
there
yeah,
something?
blue bananas, blue
Yeah,
potatoes,
it was a bunch of blue
strawberries.
blue
bees.
carrots, purple carrots.
There were these really beautiful blue bees that came out. The color on them were just incredible looking, and I would have noticed them. I would think.
Okay, this is weird, guys, but it's related, kind of. I'm going to take you on a little tangent. Notice how many white cars are on the road now. It's like people, when they're renewing their cars, they're going for white. But it could be me because I'm in Florida. But they're like everywhere. So it's just somehow tied into it that people are subconsciously picking white as the next vehicle they're going to drive for like 5 or 10 years.
And I don't disagree with this. It's even along the rental side. I work in the hotel industry, and there's a parking lot full of cars all the time, and the majority of the color of cars, it stood out to me, is white, more so than any other color in the parking lot. So I mean, that just kind of stood out to me. I've noticed in the last, year or so that
Last year or two. Yep.
Yeah, and it's only just, like I said, I've never seen anything about it, just something I personally kind of observed and went on about. So it's interesting that you bring that up. I got
Our minds kind of think alike because I've been noticing it for about a year.
Well, I had a viewer, Sharon from Michigan, mentioned it. I want to say 2018 or so. Yeah.
And Lisa
all the white
Galore over
cars.
in the chat said, yes, white cars everywhere.
Mhm.
And then white animals appearing. So it's like subconsciously we're agreeing with the white when we go to choose something.
So if for those out there like Shane who do the symbology research in the Mandela effect, that could be definitely along your symbology path with the color patterns and the color waves coming through. Speaking of color waves, if we can go ahead and get back into our white wave here. And next up we have, oh my goodness, what is this?
We all want one today.
So cute.
I know people who would have this as a pet, okay? Friend of mine just got a rat as a pet. So I know people that would have something like this. Now, this is so cute, though. That albino squirrel. Is this rarity also?
Yeah, it says giving birth to an albino offspring for a squirrel is 1 in 100,000.
And have we seen more and more of these, or is it just the fact that it exists at all?
I've never seen them at all. I never heard of a white squirrel.
So in Tennessee, the city I'm from, there's a college, and it's Austin P for those who are wondering. And this college, the squirrels, I swear to goodness, are taking over the college. They run the place. Make no mistake, the humans are there by their will only. By the will of the squirrels, I should say. But I've never, in all the tons and tons and tons of squirrels that run this property for years, and I've witnessed myself more than enough times, I've never seen a white squirrel in my entire life. In Tennessee, there's a lot of squirrels. I ain't never seen no white squirrel in my entire life.
Yeah, I grew up in St. Louis and lived here in Tulsa, and I've lived everywhere I've lived. There's been tons of squirrels. Never seen a white one.
I've never seen a white one. I've never even seen a picture. This is the first picture I've seen.
So, and it's not a Photoshop deal. It's the facts are they give birth to an albino 1 in every 100,000. That's kind of a small number. Like squirrels reproduce pretty quickly. So 100,000 is really like there should be a pretty large number of these guys at this point. Yeah,
we should be seeing them quite more often than we are since there's so many squirrels.
Right.
And this summer coming up, we may very well do just that, right? Could you imagine running around looking at summertime, running around, all you see is like half white squirrels everywhere.
But isn't that always half? That's half of the freaky thing. The other half is when people are like, "What? They've always been half white. What are you talking about?"
It's always been that way, and you're like, "Okay."
Back in the 50s, oh yeah.
Not where I come from, but okay. I don't even say that anymore. I go, okay.
To borrow a page out of Once Upon a Timeline's book, not in my timeline, not in my reality. All right. Speaking of not in my reality, what kind of other whiteness has occurred in this reality that we find ourselves in here? Okay. I've heard of a polar bear. So we're not talking a polar bear in this instance, are we?
No, we're not.
Looks like one though, doesn't it? A little fatter, not as long.
So what kind of bear is this?
The actual name of it's a type of Kermode bear. This one was discovered in the Great Bear Rainforest of British Columbia. And they are not albino. They actually have a single mutant gene that makes them all white, which is very interesting.
How long? Now, how
Never
long
heard of them.
I've never heard of this either. I've been to British Columbia and I love animals, but I never heard about this. So is it a species then, or?
Yeah, the way I found it is if you just go into Google and type in Kermode Bear, and then this will come up. And they're also called the spirit bear or the ghost bear by certain Native American tribes. Very rare, very special.
Wow.
So I'm really confused here.
We're all confused.
Before I get to the reason I'm confused, Shara Does Gasha says, I went to buy a Lazy Boy and all the models are white. So that's interesting too.
Interesting.
The people making these decisions here are skewing towards the white. That is very interesting. But a Kermode bear. First, I've never heard of a Kermode. Let's be clear. It isn't commode. It's not a Kermode. I've never heard of a Kermode bear, first off. But I don't understand a white bear in the rainforest. Can somebody explain to me how the white camouflages against this green background? I'm just a little bit on the really confused side.
You make an excellent point. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it would have been advantageous to the species to evolve in such a direction, or it doesn't make a lot of sense.
And they're not albino. You said that this is a regular species to do a gene variant. What an odd nature gene variant.
Yes.
So looks like nature itself may have had a little bit of a Mandela effect hiccup, huh? They put the white bear in the wrong place. The simulation goofed.
Well, just
We're
to
a
bring it up
message.
because it's on the screen, they are not albino with a single mutant gene. So I thought albino was a mutant pigment gene. Was it not? Is it not? Because I thought that was one of the same. So for me, that's Not that I really studied it in depth, but I thought that's exactly something happened with the pigment in the gene that would cause a species to be what they call albino. So,
And didn't all albino animals have pink or red eyes?
Yes.
And now we're seeing white animals that don't have pink or red eyes.
Exactly.
okay, so maybe
Still have
that's what it
dark
is.
eyes.
It's not all of the color genes, but maybe one specific mutant gene, and that's why it's not an albino, perhaps.
Well,
Yeah.
I think if you read the sentence, it means these are not albino with a single mutant gene. They're an entire species. And I love
generally albino. Yes, that's what. Thank you, Cynthia. That's what I was about to say. And I apologize for cutting you off. It's generally a single creature that's born an albino. You've got one white squirrel or one white whatever the case may be, but it's not generally a whole species that's albino.
I got you. So all the babies will be white too. I see.
I love the
Yeah, it's
recognition that it's called Spirit Bear. I think that's beautiful, and it's almost full circle back to the white buffalo and the awareness of the bringing all of humanity and all the people back together. So it seems to carry that same feeling, which is really nice.
So really quick, let's pull back to this white buffalo real quick. What is the white buffalo? Isn't there like a prophecy behind this?
Yes, when the white buffalo returns, and that has been happening now, lots of white buffalo are coming back. At first we thought, oh, wow, there's a white buffalo. And it's kind of like the idea of this golden age of peace and humanity getting along together. But the way these things often work, it's a phase. So I love the way that the return of the white buffalo coincided with, like I was saying earlier, this Mandela effect. It seems like they showed up together side by side. We've got the awareness globally of the Mandela effect, and we've got the return of many, many white buffalo. Not just 1 in 10 million, but we've now had, I guess, a dozen or more white buffalo.
And what does it mean, like prophetically, the return of the white buffalo? What does it lead to, like the whole prophecy? It'll be important later in the show.
Well, okay. Basically, that was white buffalo calf maiden. This picture, the deity that I've got behind me, she basically returns to Earth upon the time of the return of the white buffalo. Remember, that was the last form she took before she vanished. But with all of these myths and folklore, usually there's a symbolism that goes much deeper. So it really means that quality of spiritual awareness, of staying in touch with spirit, of keeping that level of reverence. That's the key. That's what's really returning. I think that's, if we can get confused and start looking for a literal maiden descending from the clouds again, and I'm not expecting that literally. So what I'm saying is we are the white buffalo calf maiden that we've been waiting for. It's us. That's what I'm saying.
That's interesting. That is really interesting. I love that. They've got such amazing like prophecies and stories to the Native American lore. And the Native Americans have told us this for a while. The white animals are coming. They made no question to it. Hey, guys.
And I think some of them said it would be when the spider webs appear in the sky, which is like chemtrails. Sometimes the stratospheric aerosol injection, I should say,
And when
creates a pattern like a spider web.
And also when dead animals long extinct, life forms long extinct when they return. And we've got mandanimals, we've got extinct plants, animals, all of that. So there's a lot that ties in with the prophecy.
Well, you know what? Can I just add to the spiderweb thing you mentioned? Because a phenomena that's happening to me that might start to happen to other people too is like at night when I see lights, it looks like there's a big, some people call it a plasma web, but it looks like there's like webbing over the lights. It's like really weird. That's how I describe it. So
it's like Vincent
I
van
get that
Gogh's
too, definitely.
paintings, right? The way he drew lights. And if you look away from the light and watch it from your peripheral vision, you'll just see them shooting out all kinds of rays. So I'm seeing the same thing. And I thought, oh, my eyes are changing.
Yeah. All right. I think we're seeing into the more, the next level of a frequency, whether you want to call it 5D Earth, whatever you call it. It's starting to show itself.
Yeah.
Or we're starting to see it anyway.
Where I notice it is where the, like maybe street lights at 3 a.m. will look like they have a big sphere around them of sort of these lines of streaks of color coming out. Yeah. And it's not like the normal, like, you get off a windshield or your normal glasses or your eyes. It's definitely something strange. Yeah.
Can I just say that one of the best ones to see those with, I found out this Christmas, are those really cheap Christmas lights that are really small and pointy and multicolored, and they're not environmentally friendly lights. They're real lights, and they're like $5, and you plug them in, and if you look away from them, your peripheral vision will actually see them shooting out rays of their color, whatever color they are. I'm like, whoa, this is fun. Don't look straight at it, look to the side.
That's awesome. Love it.
So the bear is interesting. So we've seen a bear, a squirrel, a dolphin, a deer, a kangaroo, and a buffalo so far. Surely we've run out of white animals, right? Producer, do we have any more? No,
Beautiful.
we have not
Beautiful.
run out of white animals, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a cougar here, also known as pumas or mountain lions, which I have locally to me. We actually had a mountain lion issue a couple years ago, very locally, and had to put signs and everything else up that these were around. Discovered in a national park in southeastern Brazil, I present to you the white cougar of Brazil.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Why
who
are
knew
white
they were
things so
cougars?
beautiful?
Yeah. Totally a spirit cougar.
Would any of you go and try to pet it or anything?
Tempted, but look, it doesn't have pink eyes, does it? So this whiteness of animals is not necessarily albino or albino, because the eyes aren't pink, right?
Exactly.
Interesting.
Now, that
Even
is
that-
interesting.
That dolphin, Casper the dolphin, they can't tell if it's albino or not because every picture they've taken of it, its eyes are closed.
Oh,
The jury's still out whether that's actually albino.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Maybe it never opens its eyes. Maybe it also got radar abilities. Right? Well, we know dolphins do anyway, but but this is a gorgeous animal. And once again, we have this in Brazil. So we've pretty much dotted the entire map with all these different animals across the board, from Brazil to the Americas to Asia and Europe and Canada. And so this isn't a regional issue then, is it? This is global, right?
Absolutely.
Or worldwide, we should say.
and it's not species related; it's everything.
Right. We've had everything, as I just said a moment ago, from cats to bears to squirrels to dolphins. It's not land or water based. It definitely seems like it's telling us something, right? This rise in white animals.
Well, getting back to what Cynthia said, I remember from school days that it is a frequency thing, that the colors aren't real, but they have a frequency that interacts with our retina and our eyeballs somehow to create the illusion of color, right? Did anybody else learn that?
You
at
got that
school?
right. Yes, white is the one that reflects everything. Black absorbs everything. And most of the colors that we see are not what they really are. But we think of red as red, but actually it's reflecting the red and absorbing everything else. So when we see white, we're getting a full...
Symbolically, what would that mean, Cynthia, that if white reflects everything? It's that unity message again.
Well, we're seeing the reflection of everything coming back. So it would be all of it together, right? So it's the collective consciousness, the fullness of being. In other words, that's why you could say it's a spirit bear or a spirit cougar, because it's reflecting back everything. So it's not just one color, but it's all of them.
It's all the colors.
Yes.
Wow.
Joe's in the chat says white equals pure equals hope.
That's true.
Oh, nice, JoJo's.
Like the white dove.
And I fully agree. Hope is definitely something that is a message that we've got from the Mandela, that we've got from the Mandela effect quite often.
Yes.
Regardless of how you read the different ones, it always seems to be a hopeful overtone, if you will.
Definitely. We still have a lot of animals. I'm thinking we might want to, I know that might be it for the white ones, but there's some exciting things coming here.
So next up on the list, producer.
Wow, look at this.
So Cynthia, you got something to say about this one here? I understand.
Well, I don't feel like I deserve credit for this. I was going to turn
Dodo
it over
Bird.
to Chris.
Chris,
No,
go
you-
ahead.
no, Cynthia, you deserve credit for this.
Okay.
Well, will somebody please explain what
Okay. For those of us, hopefully people watched our series 1, episode 1. That was the golden timeline that we just did last month. And in that episode, we were talking, or Chris was bringing up this beautiful point about the dodo. And he's covered this extensively. If you haven't seen the Quantum Businessman series, you definitely need to check that out, because now I'm a little confused on where I even saw this, but Chris has definitely covered the topic of the dodo and pointed out that we could be at some point bringing back some of these extinct species. So Chris explains it in great detail in his videos. And that's where you get the idea that we can choose timelines. We are playing an active role as observers. One of the closest relatives to the dodo actually is the pigeon. And then last time we were looking at all these rainbow animals. And now I think we would have seen a rainbow pigeon if there was such a thing in the last month. We were looking for it. I don't think anybody saw this. So here we now have a new to us, but apparently always been here, rainbow pigeon, which is extremely closely related to the dodo. And that's extraordinary. So I think the viewers and all of the Mandela affected community deserve a lot of kudos for helping to literally choose timelines that are bringing some of these animals back. I think we might see the dodo come back. And this is where I refer to the Quantum Businessman's excellent videos, because he's doing just an amazing job covering this entire topic.
Thanks, Cynthia. Yeah, so one of the Fringe videos I did, I think it was Fringe number 2, is called Extinct Animals, where I talked about the dodo bird and some things about it that to me were completely brand new. Like, I was always taught that the dodos had died in the last ones were known to be alive in the early 1600s. And now they're known to be alive until 1715. More than 100 years later, it used to be that humans were to blame for the extinction of the dodo bird, and now it's blamed on rats and cats, rats that would eat the eggs and cats that would eat the baby chicks of the dodo. But the biggest thing for me, the biggest revelation, was that we have a preserved dodo bird head, a soft tissue dodo bird. I had never heard of that before. That was like groundbreaking news. And so, so as we're starting to like bring in timelines where the dodo never went extinct, that's how these timelines work. Sometimes they're not all of a sudden, but they're like slowly things start to come back. And I think the Nicobar pigeon, which is actually, they're not rare. There's like a lot of them. They're around India and Malaysia and Indonesia, and Nicobar Islands. So this is something that I would have known before, but I never came across any living relatives to the dodo. So I take this as a really positive timeline effect.
Well, let me tell you, back in 2017, maybe even 16, there was a guy I was working with on some research stuff, and he's the only other person I found that remembers this, and maybe some of you in the chat might, I really hope. There was a small period, and it was one of these flipper floppers where the dodo was back. The dodo was legit back into reality, was unextinct.
I've heard of that too. So there's an adjacent timeline that's really close to ours. So it doesn't.
So
come
can we
very
like
often.
bump in and out of that, Cynthia? Can we just like one day the dodo will be here, and then the next day they're not, and then they are, and then they're not?
That happened to me, Eileen. That's exactly what happened, because a couple weeks after me and him had both found this article independently, we were talking about this later and figured out that we both remembered this exact same time frame that we had found the article about the dodo is back and it's returned and it's a miracle and oh my goodness, and then all of a sudden it never was and that never happened and the dodo's always been extinct. But me and a couple others remember this small period where it had come back there for just a moment.
Just a microsecond. We're so close to it. That reality's right there. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, we should go through some more of these because we haven't even gotten.
Yeah, there's another rainbow animal we've got here.
Wow, look at that, a bejeweled.
Yeah.
Wow.
A bedazzled.
Okay,
Bedazzled.
now, who tie-dyed the iguana, please? Anybody? Who's on the tie-fi fetish here? This is amazing to me. I love it.
Yeah, these rainbow iguanas, they're somewhat rare in the wild, but they're very popular in Florida because they breed them. And I had no idea. Like, I never went to a pet store where they were selling rainbow iguanas, but it's a thing. So, yeah, welcome
I've
to the
lived here
timeline.
since 2012, and I haven't seen them yet. But when you drive down between the Keys, these iguanas are everywhere, just hanging out on the roads, not squashed or anything, but, they're just everywhere in the Keys. So next time I go down there, I'm going to really take a close look and see if there's any rainbow ones.
Cool.
The tie-dyed iguana. Yeah, look for the tie-dye. That is amazing. Look at the color scheme, the yellows and the blues and the reds and the
Pinks.
all on the pinks and all on the green here. And it kind of reminds me, once again, like Shane said, of that throwback to the Rainbow Mountains and our original rainbow wave that we had.
Right.
That just reminds me of peace, love, and rock and roll, the whole 1960s thing.
What's so 60s? That's what I was thinking.
Which was also about having a lot of hope. Once again, we find
peace,
hope
yes.
and peace. And one thing about today is that it's a very hopeful day, right? It's a day of luck today. Today is St. Paddy's Day. Let us not forget. It is the day of the green, the day of the luck of the Irish. Do not mistake it, right? So we have a pot of gold for our viewers, right, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes.
All right. Producer, there we go. We've got the pot of gold manned animals, ladies and gentlemen. There's an increasing number of yellow and gold animals appearing on the timeline. Are we on a path to a golden timeline? And it's interesting because JoJo brought up here in the chat a little bit ago talking about white buffalo, that white buffalo heralds the golden timeline. So that is very interesting. So do we have any animals that would also kind of back this up and suggest? Surely there's got to be one or two, right?
We can start small. The next slide.
Let's
please.
start small. All right, what do we got here?
Small but mighty.
What is this?
Wow. It looks like a robot something. It doesn't look alive, does it? Isn't that cool?
These
Looks
are
like real.
alive. Yeah, these are tiny, but they're amazing. To see a video is incredible.
You ever heard of a gold bug, ladies and gentlemen? A
No.
golden metallic looking and sometimes called gold bugs. They are native to the Americas. So we should be having them fly around outside our windows, right? They're native to the Americas. We should be stepping on these things all the time. We should see golden bugs, right? Favorite foods are morning glory and sweet potato, which means they should be in the South also. And I have never in my life seen a golden tortoise beetle before.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
Gold bugs. That sounds like the name of a James Bond movie. Gold bug, right?
Yeah, totally.
I like
It's
this.
It's on some kind of protective surfboard too, because he or she doesn't want it touching their skin. I don't think the circle is part of the bug, right? It's like
I think
sitting
it's
on something.
wings. I think when you see them take off and fly, I think that circle's actually their wings.
No.
Yeah, it's cool to see them fly.
Gosh. Now I want to see one fly.
Oh my goodness, that is crazy. So we've got a very small piece of gold right here for St. Paddy's Day. A golden coin tortoise beetle. That is extremely intriguing. And like we brought up a moment ago, these things are worldwide, right? Let's look at our next animal, because we're going to jump from one side of the world to the next. Spotted on South Georgia Island between Argentina
I did see that one. Yeah.
and Antarctica was the only golden colored penguin in a colony of 120,000 penguins. Scientific reasons appear to be it lacks some pigments and is leucistic and not albino once again. You said you've seen this one before? Eileen?
Leucistic too. Yes, I did. I saw that in the news somewhere, or perhaps on somebody's Mandela Effect channel. They picked it up. I can't remember where.
Uh-huh.
But leucistic is like Lucifer, the morning star, which means light bearer, light bringer. So that's an interesting word that they're throwing in there.
Interesting indeed, because I was
Man,
actually going to ask you if you knew the definition of that, because I did not. I was lucky to have actually pronounced it. I'm not sure I did it right.
I think you did it better than me.
Well, I think it's a lot like showing up at a black tie party or something, and you've got a khaki suit on, and everybody else is wearing a black coat. Yeah.
Wow. It definitely stands out, and its arms are khaki or mauve or mauve, however
And I
you
love
guys
that
say it.
gold up there around the neck. But it looks like the black ones have that too. It's just more pronounced without the black there, isn't it?
Well, it looks like they've got the gold around the top of the head, but not so much around the neck. Maybe an outline, but not really. I'm not sure. He's definitely a trendsetter, isn't he?
It stands out from the
Absolutely.
crowd, right?
And it does. It stands out from the crowd, kind of like our community does. Our community stands out. We definitely are making a claim that nobody else is making. We're claiming your entire reality is different.
We're also very brave. That's a brave thing to do, to stand out. It's not an easy thing to do.
It is. If you ever have talked about the Mandela effect, you know the feeling I'm talking about. You are the oddball of the crowd for a moment. You're just waiting to look around and see who is with you and who is looking at you like the oddball that you feel like that you are. But you are definitely, what's that, Shane?
Starting to sound like our mascot we're looking at right there.
I was about to say, we've definitely got a golden ability to us. And speaking of golden, so let's go back up to the top half of the map again with the Cardinal, ladies and gentlemen. I thought Cardinals were red.
Yeah. I think the females are a little bit brown and the males are just bright red.
So I played on a baseball team in high school, middle school. It was the Cardinals, and we wore red. We definitely did not wear gold. You're looking at a rare golden northern cardinal with a 1 in a million genetic mutation. And
wow,
the rarity here of these golden animals is a lot more so than the white animals we were looking at earlier. Spotted in Alabama. So this is spotted in the U.S. once again. Not to be confused with the yellow cardinal of South America, which is an endangered species. So this is a completely different bird than the ones in South America. They didn't just fly up here and migrate.
This is amazing.
Most birds would go, if it went red, it would go white, right, Cynthia?
Yeah, you'd expect if it was going to be a typical, like we were talking about, albino, then usually that's just an absence of the coloration. But here we've got the color gold. So it's quite a spectacular mutation. Very, very fits right in with these other golden animals we've got. And again, it's not an albino at all. It's got the gold color. So it's quite remarkable.
And I love that color of that wing right there. It's not red either. It's not even brownish. I don't even know how to describe it.
Is that a gray back or kind of mauve?
Grayish,
purple in it?
greenish, purplish, brownish-ish.
It's an interesting color.
Because a lot of the things I see are like that, but that could be a color that our eyes can't even perceive yet, you know?
Yes, it could turn into
that's
something
something
else.
else we discussed a while back, was the fact that we may actually be starting to perceive new colors of the environment. What do you guys think about that real quick on the frequency idea?
It kind of goes with that, seeing lights shooting out rays, that you're actually going to look at a color that yesterday might have been blue to you, but today it looks a little purple, and you go, oh, that color changed. Your eyes, your perception of it could have changed. It could be the same.
Now, that's true, and it goes back to, and I'm not going to stay on this too very long because we are on a time crunch, but it goes back to the idea is what I call red, the same color that you see as red, or do you see what I would call green and you call it red? You know what I mean? What perception of mine do you share? Or do we even share any of the same perceptions? We know what we call these colors, but is that what we're perceiving equally? What I call green, like I said, is what you could be seeing what I call red, but you call that green.
I get what you're saying, because where did that information come from? We were taught the sky was blue, and the grass was green. That doesn't mean the sky is blue and the grass is green. So now it's getting even more complicated.
Right. And speaking of multicolored, we've got another golden animal coming up. We get another beautiful bird here, a multicolored golden bird.
The golden pheasant.
Wow.
That is beautiful. This one makes it look like we are seeing new
is.
colors too. It seems like it's got a depth of color that's quite rich, quite amazing.
And look at that tail. Gosh, that pattern.
Okay, so what if, I'm just throwing these things out there, I'm not saying that I hold them as a truth. What if the changes in frequency and the Schumann resonance and the magnetic shield kind of wobbling is hitting the rays on the animals, which is changing their colors to our eyes? What if it's all related?
I would definitely say it could be related to the Schumann resonance for sure. As we know, the Mandela effect has been more than once connected to the Schumann resonance in a very solid way, scientifically speaking. So I would definitely see that being a possibility. As a matter of fact, Shane, you pointed out that interesting pattern on the tail. And as we'll get into here in a little while, the Schumann resonance graph has also had some very interesting patterns that kind of matched that, I gotta say.
Wow.
I think we still have a couple more golden animals, though. Maybe we could.
So, yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next one here. I think somebody kind of mentioned this briefly over in the chat a little bit ago. This is the lemon dove, native to the forest of Fiji. And the female usually lays a single white egg, a lemon dove. This is gorgeous.
It looks kind of like a lemon shape too. It's a little body.
Like a lemon drop or a lemon head candy.
Mhm.
I totally see that.
I see it.
And I believe, that's the last golden bird we have, I do believe. So let's go on up to the next slide, please. Drum roll, please, for your St. Patrick's Day featured pot of gold man animal, ladies and gentlemen. It is the golden possum. Chris, what is this?
I don't even know. It's actually it's a rare golden variety of something very common, the common brush-tailed possum. And the golden color occurs by a mutation causing a low level of melanin. And when you see it, right, it reminds you of Pikachu, right?
Yeah, it's Pikachu.
You just have to dip his ears in some black ink.
Yeah.
Whoa, you can Mandela effect Pikachu to lose the black tipped ears too, right?
Yeah, that would be nicer, more humane to the animal.
That's what I love about this one, because you've got that picture of Pikachu, and a lot of us remember he had the black tail, but now he doesn't. And wouldn't that be a trip if Pikachu changes and loses the black ear tips to match this golden possum?
That would be cool. Or if the possum develops the color of Pikachu.
Right? Oh, could you imagine little sucker gets little black tipped ears and a black tail?
What if it does get Mandela affected and the people watching this in the future are like, what are they talking about? The ears don't have black tips on them.
Or they'll say, the ears always on this possum had black tips. I don't know what you guys are talking about. And we'll watch the video back, and then the possum will have the black tips too. It's like that's how the Mandela effect works. It just turns you into a liar all the time.
What's wrong? You can't see the black tips on the ears right there?
Jerry's in another timeline right now.
I mean, that'd be the person, if it changed, to go back watching this video and tell about, what's wrong with these people? Can't you see the black tips right there? I mean,
yeah, that's the weird thing about it. That just doesn't make sense, because that's not even on most people's radar as even being a possibility. And of course, if you don't think something's possible, you'll just totally miss it,
And again, the eyes are not pink. It's worth more pointing out. This is not an albino. It really looks like Pikachu.
I gotta say, I'm not a fan of little rodents like that, but that is adorable, and I will rarely use that word in relation to these guys. So happy St. Patrick's Day, ladies and gentlemen. Your golden timeline animals and the pot of gold at the end, the golden Pikachu possum. I
Wow.
do definitely hope it was worth the wait for that pot of gold.
But we still got some other important announcements and things to talk about. I know we do.
Yes, ma'am, we do. You're absolutely right. Coming up on March 20th is a very special day, isn't it, folks?
Yes.
And
And
what
that's,
makes it so special?
well, weirdly, this is now the equinox. I remember, and I think some of us were talking earlier, that we remember the equinox was on the 21st of March. Seeing faces, heads nodding. Well, now this year it's March 20th. Very odd. So this is the day that so on the equinox, we have them in the spring, we have them in the fall. What it really signifies is the equal length of day and night. So it's that point in time when it's the changing of the seasons is the association, of course. There's also a very clear connection that people have pointed out. Moneybag 73 has pointed it out. I think Shane and Jerry, you guys have pointed it out. Pretty sure Chris has, that we see sometimes an increase in Mandela effect activity at the times of the equinox. And that would be a really great topic right now to check in on, see if people have ideas, comments about that.
Now, for those here that do Mandela Effect channels, have you seen a recent increase in the amount of Mandela Effect viewers you've had, especially in your older content?
Now, what do
I
you mean?
haven't noticed.
You mean just like suddenly it goes like a lot higher than it was? That's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Like it wasn't that huge
Like
number.
you've got a
That's
lot
not
of
big.
new people coming into the community, checking out the older, because this is something else I've noticed. People seem to follow a general trend line, the same trend line that most of us followed. They'll find the older ones first. Like you'll see people bring up Febreze like you just changed for them last week. Or Jiffy, or matter of fact, my Jiffy. Yeah, I can actually see a trend in this one. A video I did in 2018 still gets 8 to 9 hits a day. And sometimes it'll be up to 25 or 30, and it'll sit there for about a week or so. And what I really think this is, after talking with different people about this, is new people coming in the community. And this is something we see exactly, JoJo's. Wow, thank you, Heather. I appreciate that. That's exactly what I'm saying right there. The influx of new people coming in. This is what we see around every solstice. It was pointed out to me about a year before Shane gave his talk at the IMEC and brought up the exact same point. And no, Shane's not the one that brought it up to me the first time, by the way. So it was independently verified that we have a large influx of people that start to come in that follow these old trend lines up to where we're at now, the old effects into the newer stuff. To them, it's brand new. Have you guys noticed this, and have you noticed an increase in your older videos recently?
Those are great questions. I haven't looked for that. And are you talking about only the spring equinox, or because I know that one gets a huge burst of activity, but also the autumn equinox? You're
The
talking both.
autumnal and the spring equinox both have this trend that happens of people coming into the community all of a sudden. We grow. I don't know if they're phasing in from another reality, or if they're just finding it, or if it's becoming in their consciousness. I'm not sure.
Shane and I talked about that on one of our shows, didn't we? About when we became aware that the Mandela effect was a thing. And it was around, yours was a spring equinox and mine was an autumnal one, right?
Yeah.
It was always around the
A lot
equinox.
of people that I talk to, a lot of people that know. In fact, we should have people chime in the chat and say when you sort of woke up to the Mandela effect, because I was wondering if it had something to do with how the world is most balanced at that time. If you think about like the length of day and night, or whether you're in the southern or northern hemisphere, is pretty equal. And if you live at the North Pole or the South Pole, where you get 6 months of dark and 6 months of light type of a, you're going to be sort of in this dawn type or late afternoon, late evening where the sun's still up. But, so there is, like, with the weather, there seems to be sort of more equality, the equinox, right? So things are more equal. The world is more unified, it seems like.
And I definitely see like there's a connection with the sun for sure. And I know some of the Symphony of Realities videos I did about the Titanic, for example, I talk about like the concept of a hairball of timelines. because the day the Titanic sank was also a big solar storm, and that could have thrown the compasses off on the Titanic, etc. And I found all these other like historical dates in history were all marked by all this solar activity. So there's definitely a connection, for sure.
Could be a frequency thing too. I don't know, maybe be interesting to follow the Schumann on equinoxes and solstices and see what does it change a little.
It has been variable on the equinoxes. That is definitely one of the dates we have marked for testing that we always take a look at. I've only seen a very few shifts, though I have seen shifts on equinoxes. But what we've got right now, we'll get to the Schumann here in just a moment, is absolutely like weird as can be. And if we could get the PowerPoint back up on the screen here, the location we have on this particular slide, if you could go back one, is Chichen Itza. And this is in Mexico, and this is a really, really amazing. I know if you guys have seen Ancient Aliens, you've seen this 1,000 times, but this is one of those amazing sites, like the ancients have all across the world, the megalithic sites they built just for the equinoxes. Most of these sites line up for just the sunrise or sunset of the equinox. And this particular one is the one that, again, we see on Ancient Aliens all the time that has the snake that comes down the pyramid when the shadow hits it just right. And the snake's head is the cement column at the bottom of the pyramid. It's a great big snake head, and the stairs make it look like that. Has anybody ever been here to see this in person at the equinox?
I've been to Chichen Itza twice, but not on the equinox. If you look at this picture, though, there's like thousands of people. They say up to 5,000 people will gather at the base of Chichen Itza to watch the feathered serpent or Quetzalcoatl, come down the staircase, so to speak. So it is a very popular thing.
And it's really interesting that even the ancients revered the equinoxes. They were trying to tell us there's something magical about these days. And when you deal with the magical and the metaphysical and things like the Mandela effect, it's definitely something that we would want to keep an eye on to see if there are shifts or different activities that occur in the Mandela effect range during these times. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
For sure.
There's another thing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, it seems like we're, if you think about the idea that you can choose timelines or walk between worlds, whichever construct you want to go with, it seems like this time of more equal days and nights it seems like it's bringing those other realities a lot closer so we can feel them more readily. So it seems like the doors are open. It's that time of year when the veils have thinned, if you want to put it that way too, and you can actually literally walk into a different reality without noticing you've done it, and then it feels like, whoops, wrong world, but it's the right world. It's just that you've been traveling as consciousness.
And that goes back to the question that I posed a moment ago. When we see this influx of people, are they literally walking into our reality, or are they just waking up to it? It really poses an interesting question at that point. I love that, Cynthia.
Yeah,
I know what you mean. I kind of agree with Cynthia in past discussions that we've had, that instead of us like physically jumping into new timelines, we're actually just tuning in to different levels of consciousness. So you can stay in one room like a radio receiver, and you can tune into country or classical and everything in between without having to go into another room.
But what's fun is you see reality physically change around you as if you've
moved,
taken a space or time ship, but you don't need to. They can totally change around you anyway. Yeah.
I love the radio analogy. That's the one Dr. Michio Kaku, one of my heroes, uses quite a bit. And when asked about the Mandela effect, to be clear, that was his answer. So,
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. He was asked about it on Big
that.
Think. I think it's on Big Think. He was asked about it, and that was his answer. It's completely plausible. And he went into the radio explanation and the dimensions, and the dinosaurs could be right next to you right now. Yeah, it was a really good explanation. He did not say no by any means.
I got to go find that.
there's a book on that topic that came out quite a long time ago, and it was brought back into print by the guy that does remote viewing for the CIA and all that. So he has been instrumental in bringing back some really beautiful metaphysical books, masterpieces like Mental Radio and that telepathic concept. And so it's back in print, and it's I forget the name of the author now, but it's not Michio Kaku. It's the original author book is in print again, and that's worth checking out.
Definitely.
Yeah, do, if you can, later on, send me that link. I would love to purchase
And
that
me.
book.
Okay.
And moving along, we've got another interesting event going to happen on the equinox. Is that correct?
Another very interesting thing is going to happen on March 21st. And if you think about it, if you're into numerology, March is the third month of the year, right? 21, 2 and 1 is 3. 2021, 21 is 3. So there's lots of threes going on. And yeah, I thought when I was reading into this, like this asteroid passing into the Earth, to me appears to be a very positive timeline event, that this is happening on the time of the spring equinox. And so I thought the timing of this was like really super, super interesting.
Well, it's also, I didn't even think about the 333 connection there, but that's amazing. But it's also like 321. 3, 2, 1,
I see it.
boom.
Countdown, yeah.
And the ancients are in our, it's all in our DNA. And we might not think that we're ancient, but we are, because we're made up of the earth where they lived and breathed, and their DNA went into us. They always marked important events, often according to asteroids and meteors. And, they always felt that that was like heralding the beginning of something or the end of something.
That's very true. We go back once again to the ancients. It seemed like the ancients knew a lot more about the magic and the metaphysical than we are willing to accept in our world today, right?
But we're coming back to it. I think the Mandela effect is bringing us back into the magic and the metaphysical and the miraculous. I think that's what it does, is it shakes you awake to go, you're not in Kansas anymore. There's coloration, Dorothy. It's like it wakes you up.
I would absolutely agree. Go ahead, Chris.
I would say what's interesting too about this asteroid is that you'll be able to, if you have the right telescope, you'll be able to see it in the very early morning of March 21st. But the best place to see it is like South America, Mexico. So again, it kind of lines up with the Chichen Itza thing as well. So I thought
nice.
Yeah.
And once again, like Eileen just said, they used to mark things with things like the asteroid. Now we've got something else. The ancients also marked the equinox and the asteroid at the same time. And this is something that I would call a time-locked event, right? This is all happening at once. There's out of any human's hands. Whatever's going to happen in this scenario is going to happen regardless, and is meant to happen at this time. The asteroid didn't just by chance come in at the same time the equinox occurred. Like I have a real problem with coincidence there.
Yeah, I want to bring something up here too. And this is an idea from Native Americans. Actually, this is a Native Canadian. Tobakanawit Kinu was a Indigenous elder that was sitting next to me at a Language of Spirit conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico, a number of years ago, back when he was alive. And he made an amazing comment. He said, some things like to happen together. And that's the idea, that things like to happen together. And so there's an orchestration behind the scenes. There's a hidden order behind all of reality, which you might call consciousness, you might call it love, relationships. But when you recognize the power of each of us to relate to others and the way that we can steer reality through those relationships, it's a lot more than most of us appreciate fully on a conscious level.
What's interesting is also that we had that big conjunction the last quarter of a year ago, right around the winter solstice, and now here we are a quarter of a year later at the equinox, and we've got this other. It's a conjunction of sorts, right? You've got the asteroid and the spring lining up. So not space bodies, but there's still a synchronicity to it.
They're drawn to each other. The events themselves are.
And this asteroid has been around here before, And every time it approaches, it gets closer. So this is its closest pass by the Earth on an equinox, which is kind of cool.
So if I could get the thing back up on screen, there's a question in the chat here that I would love to answer real quick. Time locked for this reality or all of them? The answer Chris has already provided for us. Thank you, Mr. Quantum Businessman here in his quantum ability to know that the question was coming, right? Positive timeline event for this timeline indicates we are in the top 5% of all positive timelines. And I like this idea that it's time locked to our timeline, not all timelines.
Yeah, and that, if anyone wants to know, like that number, the 5%, because I actually added that to the slide. That's something that's it's part of a technique that I do with my higher self to get that type of information. But yeah, it's however you look at it, I see it as divine timing, definitely a positive timeline event. The golden animals, all these things are all like signposts for us. That things are as crazy and bizarre as the world is going right now. It's all the end result will be good. Right now, it's not so good, but yeah.
Absolutely. And the fact that it's not going to touch us, the fact that it's going to pass by and wave as it goes on by on the equinox, that's definitely a positive opposed to it, I don't know, smashing into us. That's definitely not a good ending. So, yeah, I would say we're in the top 5% because we could be in the lower 95 that didn't make it as well. And not to say it would have destroyed the Earth, but it would have definitely caused some catastrophic damage. And there's been some damage caused, it looks like, recently to the Schumann Resonance. If I go ahead and get a change on the screen here to the next slide. So the Schumann Resonance, and if I could get a screen share also with my screen share in the backstage there. The Schumann Resonance has been acting really, really, really strange lately. This is a picture of the current, right now, as we speak, Schumann Resonance chart. So this is real-time live. We've seen these lines showing up a lot recently. CERN itself has been shut down, so I don't think that is the case, though CERN has recently officially fired up. Now, they could have been running without official running, let's be clear. But we've seen these new white line background patterns in the Schumann Resonance. There's been groups that have been put together that are trying to see if there's a code in here, if they can get symbols or messages out of this. And I kind of have scoffed at that just a little bit. I'm going to be fair. Until a little bit earlier, I was looking at this here, if I can get my screen to act correctly. And that looks like code if I ever seen it. A very clear step down right there.
I think people are thinking of the Matrix with those numbers coming down.
Yeah,
it looks kind of like
it looks like that.
It really does. And I've seen some work where they've actually pulled out different like symbols, almost alien-like symbols out of this background stuff. So there's some people that are really, really digging deep into this, deeper than I've got time to dig into.
I've never seen that pattern before, but I haven't been looking. I haven't been watching, but that is an interesting, like almost like a tapestry, like it's woven.
Yes.
Right. And we've seen this occurring only in the last 4 or 5 months. This is something really, really new to the Schumann Resonance. No, I take that back. Do you remember when I did the Schumann Resonance episode?
Yes.
On Rippin? That very same night is the night that the Schumann Resonance did that weird flat line for a week or two that it did, and it wouldn't really respond, and it just had that weird pattern. Ever since then, we've been seeing off and on this pattern right here showing up. And about a month or so ago, this pattern kind of faded away. In the last day or two, it has returned. Since CERN has turned on, it does correlate to this turning on, but it does not correlate directly with all of CERN's work. So I definitely can't point a finger there.
Have you guys ever considered that CERN is a response to the Mandela effect, that certain scientists went, what's going on here? Something that they used to call spontaneous evolution. It meant, or spontaneous remission in a healing. It meant a miraculous change, but because we're a scientist, we're going to call it spontaneous evolution. of a species or a healing spontaneous remission. And they created CERN and quantum computing as a response to try to control these amazing, miraculous changes, to see if humanity could get a jump on it and try to control it. So I have considered that. Have you guys?
I have not. I mean, I've heard you mention it before, but it's not something I've really in-depth thought about, but it does make sense, right?
Yeah.
That would be if like Cynthia's pointed out more than once, she's shown the pictures of the scientists and said, these guys don't seem like the type that are nefariously trying to rip holes in reality. And I'll give her that. And that's a fair enough point. Although we also know that science makes more accidental finds than it does regular finds. So they could still accidentally do what they're not trying to do. That said,
That's so funny.
your point is valid, though, Eileen. They could be a response to, without being vocally a response to, some scientists getting word that, hey, something weird is going on. We can't tell the public, but we have to find a way to figure this out and perhaps reverse whatever it may be. And we'll call it particle physics research. And maybe we can, along the way, we can make some discoveries, and we'll get to that in just a moment too. But it could very well be to because they say they're trying to reach other realities. If they know this was being messed with, perhaps that's their kind of little wink, nod of saying, hey, we're trying to fix this. It could also explain why in the Happy video they had the Mandela code around the guy's neck, right?
Yep. They might be trying to get a harness on it. They might have found a wild horse out there that they're like, whoa, what is this? Let's not tell everybody because we don't know what it is yet, but let's try to lasso it and control it. It's possible.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, isn't CERN actually more of a tool that's used by all sorts of researchers? Like they rent it out for a block of time. It's not one specific group of scientists, is it?
They have three different groups running all the time, and they work in teams with collaborations around the world, and they're doing quantum computing. There's so much more than we could talk about today, but yeah, but officially there's nothing mentioned about this, of course.
Right, but that seems like more of a scientist thing to do to me, would be to try to fix or understand what's going on, opposed to trying to create chaos.
Yeah.
With whatever may be happening.
Yeah, like let's figure this out.
Like a scientist purview would be, hey, something's going on. I need to understand this. It seems to be reality itself. Let's do some particle high physics research, figure out what we can figure out.
And we all know that the scientists are very left brain, and they're going to want some left brain, research to show the Mandela effect. And of course, we all know that there's no left brain anything to prove it's happening. So they're stuck. So what are they going to do? Come out and say something about it, or keep trying to figure it out until they have some kind of left brain? So yeah, I totally agree. That could totally be a plausible analogy. Yeah.
I mean, I grew up next to Fermilab, and Fermilab was an atom smasher in, I think, Batavia, Illinois. Mm-hmm. This is as a child in the 70s, and we're like, oh, so they're smashing atoms, a few miles away. So that seemed really normal. And then Affected Collective, this channel did a video going, you guys, there's 19,000 particle colliders in the world. When did that happen? And I'm like, really? 19,000?
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
30 now.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and I have some interesting theories too about CERN too. I probably will make a video about this in the future, but because when you talk about CERN, is it just the one in Switzerland? All the other Large Hadron Colliders, acting in a symphony orchestra together to do whatever they're trying to do. But I believe a lot of it is when it comes to Mandela effects. I call it the concept of stolen authority, but I find it very interesting because I find a connection between CERN, this is going to blow your mind, and the Terracotta Warriors of China. So the Terracotta Warriors of China were discovered in the early 70s. And in the early 70s, there was a hadron, a smaller one that went active in India, actually. And they both served a very unique purpose. And I want to tie those both in together because it's one of those things that people they never saw this coming, but I found all the different connections with that. and how it relates in the Akashic records. So at some
I'd
point,
love to see that. Yeah.
yes, shed some light on that. And if people don't know the Terracotta Warriors, everyone is unique. Like when they analyze the facial structure, everyone is different. Even the horses are different. Every horse looks different. It's like they were actual people or horses or whatever. So there's a lot of like things about these hadron colliders I think are going to be revealed more into the future, or at least we'll get to start thinking about them in a little different way.
So, Chris, are you starting to think maybe the Hadron Colliders and the Atom Smashers are in response to the Mandela effect, where scientists are trying to understand a natural phenomenon, as opposed to, I think in the early days, when I was watching early Mandela effect videos, they would always say CERN caused it or D-wave is causing it. So I'm kind of switching that these are not the causes of something very natural and miraculous, but they're trying to figure it out.
You could definitely. I mean, all viewpoints. We're all trying to figure this out together. But to me too, you follow the money. Like who put up all the money for CERN? Was it the Rothschilds? Was it these elite families in Europe that started the one in Switzerland, etc.? But I believe now that it actually serves a legitimate purpose for the planet. But these are the type of things that's. I need to like lay it out so that you can see step by step how one relates to the other. But I definitely see a connection between the terracotta and CERN as far as a purpose went for Earth. So,
and this is going to be another part of the Symphony of Reality series?
It could. Maybe I'll include that. Yeah, I probably could. I could probably do that in one of the acts.
Well, just as I just asked the question, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions whatsoever, please go ahead and put them in the chat now, whether it be for myself, Mr. Shane Robinson, Mr. Christopher Anatra, the quantum businessman, Miss Cynthia Sue Larson, or our special guest this evening, Miss Eileen Colts. Go ahead and get your questions in there, and we would love to hear your thoughts. Science teacher once told me, said alveolar smashing, particle smashing. She replied, "Aren't atoms small enough?" That's cute. I like that. They apparently have found 4 new particles. CERN has. I haven't really read a lot of the article, but according to a recent headline, 4 new particles have been found just since they turned the beams back on. And it begs the question, are they 4 new particles? Did they just suddenly found that quickly? Or are they 4 literally brand new particles in reality itself?
That also raises another question, if anybody's noticed Mandela effects in the periodic table of the elements. I personally haven't, but that would be fascinating if people start noticing changes to some of that. Yeah, you have it?
Kryptonite. What? That's only. I thought that was make pretend.
Are you serious? It's real?
Yeah, kryptonite's real.
Imagining things, but
What?
No.
way.
Yeah, same here. To me, that was all fantasy. It's a real thing.
No
It's
way.
on yeah.
No way. That's Superman. That's like off on planet Krypton, right?
Exactly.
What year did they find that one? Do you know the data? That's amazing. Because maybe they did find it recently and named it after the whole Superman franchise. That's wild.
I mean, I remember we had to memorize that table like in 7th or 8th grade, which is very painful. You know?
It's number 36. It's number 36.
What?
KR.
Yeah.
It's been around for a long time, right?
It can't be that high up
It's
on the table.
Krypton. It's Krypton is what it is.
Krypton, yeah.
What's the atomic?
KRYPTON, and it's KR.
KR.
The noble gas, the atomic mass of 83.798 U.
Wow.
That is a major Mandela effect for me. You too, Cynthia? That's
Absolutely.
crazy.
Yeah, that would have been everybody's favorite one to do the report on when it's time to do your report on. Pick an element and do your oral report. Yeah. Everybody choose kryptonite.
and didn't Bob Lazar find something that now they've put
Element
into our
151.
periodic table?
Okay, so we're talking about element 151. It was something that he was scoffed at for. He said it only lasts a very, very short amount of time in reality. And then it's very it's stable, but it's unstable at the same time. It don't last very long. And then Because everybody like, oh, you're crazy. That our periodical chart don't go that high. That's insane. In 2014 or 15, they added 4 elements to periodical chart: Tennesseum, Muscovium, and 2 others. Muscovium being element 151.
No way.
That's so
Or
cool.
115, excuse me, 115. Yeah,
What year? What year was that
I
one?
believe it was 14 or 15. Don't quote me on the year. I'll
Okay.
have to look that back up. But yeah, they added Tennesseum, which was found at Oak Ridge National Laboratories, Muscovium, which was found in Moscow at a Russian laboratory, and it only lasts a very, very short milliseconds in reality. Exactly what Bob said. And it
Exactly.
was added to the periodical table. It was originally called Unpentium when Bob mentioned it. That was the placeholder it had on the table in the periodic chart.
Now, Jerry, let's give some background for Bob Lazar for people that don't know what the significance of this is, which is remarkable.
Okay, so this is definitely not Mandela effect, but Bob Lazar, and I do have a question for you here in a moment. Bob Lazar was a gentleman that come out in the 1980s and said, I worked at a secret area of Area 51, even more secret than the usual known part of Area 51 called S4. And he said that working here, he had worked on craft that had been reverse engineered in ARVs. I'm trying to remember the ARV, reproduction vehicle is basically what it stood for. So he had worked on these vehicles that the military had remade from alien craft. And one part of the propulsion system that he said, he drew out the whole propulsion system and everything, was basically a particle collider type propulsion system. And one of the things that he said they used in this was something called element 115. He said the aliens had given the humans a good batch of 115, but we couldn't make it. It only lasts a few milliseconds when it's put in the natural environment, and we couldn't really make it at all. But if we were able to, it'd be really hard because it lasts such a short amount of time. And he called it element 115. It's 115 on the periodic chart, he said. And of course, at the time, element 115 wasn't on a periodic chart. It was a theorized element that just was too heavy to be actually produced. There's no way that could be, actually made. And then they did. And again, it happened in Moscow. So they took Unpentium off the chart, what Bob had actually called it, and added Muscovium is the official name now of element 115.
Wow, you are like a walking encyclopedia on that stuff. That
I've
is so
only
cool.
studied it for 28 years, so.
You said we have a question too?
Yes, ma'am. So interesting question. If I could, Heather, get the question from Yonor Games up on the screen here. Looks like we got another one too. But Yonor Games, how fruitful, meaningful is applying logic as used in hypothesis, conjectures, and proof studies when thinking about the ME?
Great question. I'm very logical about it because I love science. So I really do approach the ME when I see a new one from kind of a logical perspective. Like, I don't want to think everything that's changed is an ME. I want to think, well, maybe I didn't notice that before. But then you can go through the deductions and you can figure out eventually what is and what isn't an ME for you. For me, I can figure it out for myself, but I can't figure it out for anybody else because all their MEs are different.
Right. Yeah, the Mandela effect is such a subjective experience. It really is. It's amazing that so many of us are noticing it together. That's what's so beautiful right now. We're such a pivotal moment in human consciousness and evolution where we can start sharing and comparing some of our notes. And we may not all agree on when we noticed Jif or Jiffy peanut butter or Haas avocados and so forth. But the fact that we at least agree that some things are definitely changing is amazing. And when we look at the scientific method, we need to make some changes to that scientific method because the Western scientific assumptions are broken. They've been dysfunctional for at least as long as quantum physics has been around, because when quantum physics came forth, no longer can we assume that we can be an objective observer. There's no such thing. Absolutely not. And their non-local effects are definitely occurring. And so we need to change the science. That's one of our main reasons to exist as a 501c3 organization that we are. International Mandela Effect Conference is actually long-term looking to find the new science that we'll be using. We need to create it together. It doesn't currently exist to my knowledge, but logic is very useful. We recommend take a look at things like quantum logic, Eastern logic, fourfold logic, because the old methods of logic, they're good tools, but they're limited.
I like that, the definition of logic, and not applying simple basic logic that we would know, but more advanced, more specialized version of logics, right?
Right. So it's not Boolean, yes or no, true or false. We're in a world when we see a flip-flop reality, we're seeing, like, I look out the window at my neighbor's gutter, and sometimes there's a leaf guard, and then the next day there's not, and then it's back to leaf guard and not. That kind of thing happens. When we see those things, then we're recognizing that it's possible for me to be right and you to be right. Maybe Jif or Jiffy did not change at the same year, at the same time. That's okay. We don't need it to occur at the same time at the same year. That's not the point. So we're in a different realm when we start recognizing that we can have true and false, and not true and not false. And those are new categories, that fourfold logic I was referring to. You've got the true and the false, and then you've got the bigger categories, not true, not false, and true and false.
I like that, and true and false. And personally, from the theorizing point of view, for a person that's done many Mandela effect theory, there's a lot that is really, really hard to, what's the word I'm looking for? To put all together, to
Coalesce.
coalesce. Thank you. That's perfect. I can't coalesce everything together. Like, I can explain this, and this aspect of the Mandela effect, but I can't explain the flip-flops or another aspect, the body changes. Or I can explain the body changes, flip-flops, and everything else, but I can't explain the Bible changes. So there's always reconcile. That's another word I was trying to actually get to. I can't reconcile everything together in a theory that would not only cover the data we found thus far, but can make predictions, because every good theory is what it's for, is to make predictions about what is to come. And I'll be darned, no matter what I do, I cannot reconcile all the information together under simple Boolean logic to make it make sense. Because like you say, to this person, Jiffy changed last week. To me, it changed back 2016. Probably before that, but that's when I found that it had changed in my reality, in my consciousness, awareness. To me, so I can't base it on my personal experience, because we could both be wrong. It could have actually changed back in 2010. We just became aware of. So there's so many unanswered questions when trying to apply the logic and conjecture to the Mandela effect, that it really is hard to nail down a good, solid theory when doing that. So I like the idea of using outside logic, multiple logic routines, and this is right, and that's right, and it's more inclusive in the idealism, but it doesn't help theorizing any.
It's true. Yeah, I saw it. Well, Shondell Rivers was asking, I think that person was referring to, what do you mean, no such thing? That was objective reality, no such thing. So I'm just referencing recent physics experiments in the laboratories with work done in 2018, published in 2019 by Carlos Bruckner and associates with the University of Vienna, Austria, in collaboration with University of Edinburgh, Scotland, where they did a version of the double slit experiment with two observational devices at the same location, observing the same event and witnessing different phenomena. So they were it's a special version of the double slit experiment with the observers observing the observers. So it's the Wigner's friend kind of scenario. But the fact that you've got two observers who see different things is indicating right there, and this is a repeatable experiment, that we cannot necessarily always assume that objective reality is operational the way we thought that it was. It may have other qualities to it, but it's different than what we've been assuming objectivity to be. And we also know with just that double slit experiment, we can influence that experiment, the observer, and where you place the observational device changes what subsequently happens, and you can do it backwards in time. So your future decisions can affect the past. And these are all well-proven, amazing experiments with the double slit in quantum physics.
It's so amazing. It's so hard to wrap your head around it when you've been raised in an educational system that is very locked on what is true and what is false. And you find yourself in a world where everything is possible and nothing is permanent. So my question is always, well, where do I fit in? How do I participate in that kind of a universe? And, I can say that every year I can do more in my environment than I could the year before. It's all based on what I think I can do and what I'm willing to try in my own little reality. So I don't know if you guys are experimenting with like slowing down time and, moving across space, perhaps in a kind of a quantum way. I was at the pool, and there's little tiny red ants. They're like minuscule. And I was watching them as I was laying on a towel, and they would run, and very fast, cover 2 inches, and then they would disappear. Poof, they'd be gone. And I'd be like, where'd it go? And then it would pop back into reality 2 inches away. And so that was really eye-opening for me, that there are animals around us who are living in a quantum way in our reality.
That's the way nature seems to work. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I'd be willing to bet most of the animals, like we think birds fly by the magnetic field, but I'd be willing to bet there's a lot of quantum things that go on with these animals, especially their sight and their ability to navigate things like that we haven't even began to understand yet. And
it's a miraculous world. It is. It's an amazing place.
Well, it rolls right into our next question. Heather, if you could go ahead and grab Lewis Carroll's question for me. I like this. Do you think she was on it too. She already knew where I was going. Love it. Do you think it's possible, what was referred to as esoteric knowledge in the past, or magic, is really all of this stuff, for lack of much better term? And let me rephrase the question. Do you think what the ancients spoke of as magic and what we call ancient esotericism is actually the Mandela effect in what we're experiencing in today's world?
Yeah, well, I think we're looking deeply. Those of us who are looking at the Mandela effect, we know that the more closely you look and better you observe, the more of these things you see. So it's not a matter of we're too tired or we're confused. Not at all. And the root of the word magic is magi, which is all about listening. So we're really observing very closely, and absolutely there's a connection between magi and, you think of the magi, the gifts of the magi. These were very revered practitioners of deep listening that we recognize in our spiritual traditions as well.
I'm totally into a magical world, and I think it becomes more magical the more we open our minds to all the possibilities. Then you just start to see it and you start to notice it. I think we were trained as children in school to not see the magic. We were trained that, there was A to Z, and you had to follow the rules that they gave you to understand the world. And as soon as you chuck all of that out and see it with the eyes of a child, it's a really magical place again.
Well, I was able to raise my children differently. So when I go on walks with my daughter now, what she does is she just thinks of something she wants in the morning, like she'll be traveling soon, and she wanted a travel journal, a brand new one. She looked at the ones she has. They're not very good. So she had it in mind. We're on a late night walk. She sees a free box. She says, oh, wait, Mom, let's take a look at this. She shines a flashlight in, and sure enough, a brand new pocket-sized, beautiful journal. And that's not the only thing. Just whatever she thinks of, there it is. That's just, so when you grow up this way, not so much of a problem.
It reminds me of Kimberly Lynn Hansen's ruler. And then she wound up with 2 identical ones that were very special because they'd been marked. So if we are the creators here, we might actually, and it doesn't interfere with the belief in God or God's power, because it's very possible that God gave us this matrix in which to create. And then we learn we're just not limited. There's so much we can create.
Yeah.
Absolutely, like a gift from God. They say every day is a gift. That would definitely make sense. Like you said, it's not blasphemy. It's saying this is what God has given us to do. This is the power and ability that we've naturally been given by God. And I say on my show all the time, one thing I 100% wholeheartedly believe in, there are two worlds that exist within each other. You've got the world of the normal, the world of normies, if you will, the world of everything around us that we normally see, nothing strange, nothing to see here. You know, everything works as it works. That's it. There's a magic world that exists in the same exact physical space. A world that if you are not able to really accept it, you're not going to see it. But it is literally all around you. From UFOs, if you could go ahead, Heather, pull Claire Ramsdale's comment question up here. I'd really appreciate this because it goes right on with what I'm saying here. The question is, do you think Emmy is only apparent to those that are naturally open-minded? I think all of the magic of reality is open to those who are open-minded enough to see it. If you believe UFOs ain't real, then you're going to do your best not to see them. If you believe the ghosts aren't real, then no matter what experience you have, you're going to do your best to explain it off. My father had multiple experiences that he came up with the goofiest explanations I've ever heard. But if you stretch reality enough, you can almost make them work. So I think it goes back to being fully open-minded to the magic that literally exists all around us 24/7. Would you guys agree?
Yeah. And open-hearted, having that sense of love and respect and unity seems to go with this somehow. Don't you guys think?
Yes, and getting a little beyond that divided mind of left and right brain and going straight into that sense of purity of awareness and the sense of all time or no when, where you've got access to all of these realities. But it's fearless. That place has no fear. It's just love. So like you said, I love it, Eileen. Very big-hearted, open-hearted as well.
Open-minded, open-hearted.
Yeah.
Kind of how children are born in this world. They have to learn to not be open-minded. They have to learn to not be open-hearted because they come here with just, love and everything is possible to them.
Absolutely. And the innocence of the child, right? When you have children reporting Mandela effects, like that is the purest of the pure, the innocence of the child. I'm just saying, it really gets your attention. And would anybody like to add anything to this? I believe it's the last question here. We're going to go ahead and wrap this out for this evening. We've almost pushed 2 hours. You guys believe that?
I think we could go for like 5 hours easy. Maybe with a coffee break or a loo break.
Finished talking about stuff. We've got so much. So I'm going to go around the table real quick, kind of give everybody one last final thoughts. Starting out once again with our president, Miss Cynthia Sue Larson.
Well, people know my favorite question. It's how good can it get? So that's the guiding guideline that I like to keep my heart and my mind open with. And it's a reminder that sometimes we can get narrow focused and we don't want to do that. So that's my invitation to everyone. Just keep asking, how good can it get? No matter what's going on, whether it seems like it's a problem, seems like it's going sort of okay, or it's going great. Just keep asking that. And that's a great way to steer all of our lives in an onward and upward direction.
I'll be honest, no matter how bad a day you're having, instead of, oh, come on, can it get any worse? Trust me, say, how good can it, even if you're sarcastic, how good can it get? Oh, okay. Because the universe takes both of these as challenges, right? Chris, Anatra, the quantum businessman, final thoughts, please, sir.
Yeah, I was going to say that things are getting to be pretty good. One of the things I want to mention is that even historical things seem to be, some things I've been researching seem to have been getting better. Like before I went to Egypt in 2018, I did all this research into Ramses II, and he had died like in his 40s, and a mysterious death, and some of his wives were executed and children because the priests thought that they didn't have an explanation for it. And now, in this timeline, that doesn't happen. Ramses II lives until old age, and they think he died of hardening of the arteries into his 90s. So I can see all between the golden mandanimals and everything else that's going on and some positive things in past history that's changing, I think we're on the right track. So good job, everyone.
Oh, we had the golden monolith. Now we've got the golden animals. I would definitely say we are solidly heading into the golden timeline. And I don't know about you guys, but I like gold. What about you, Shane? Final thoughts, my friend? You like gold?
Oh, definitely. And I think we are heading into this golden age that's been spoken of for so long, and it's something we've never really experienced. So of course it's going to be a wild and magical ride. It's been so magical for me. The magic I've experienced in the last few years since I've discovered the Mandela effect. I mean, that was just a door opening. So I encourage any of you guys that might be just waking up to this to just relax with it, go with it. It is kind of freaky at first, but, take some deep breaths and realize that we've been seeing it for a few years, Cynthia for decades, and even Eileen for decades, and we're still here. So it can freak you out when reality is changing in a way that you don't think is possible. But yeah, I think it's pointing to something that's really much more beautiful. And I want to thank all of you guys. It's such a pleasure to be on the panel with you guys, and Eileen, our special guest for today, who's done some for years now. We've been doing these intention meditation shows together, and I want to mention again for those that might be coming in late, on the equinox this Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have an intention meditation over on the YouTube channel, Unbiased and on the Fence, where we'll join our powers of intentions to change the world in a positive way. So thank you so much.
That is absolutely amazing. Guys, if you're into meditation and you definitely want to do something special for the equinox, do make sure you check out Unbiased and On the Fence YouTube channel, where Miss Eileen Colts, our special guest tonight, will be joining him for these intention meditations. And let me tell you, I've heard them do quite a few of these, and it's something you will definitely not want to
thank you. Thanks, guys.
I personally think this is our way into the golden timeline. I think we are definitely solidly in this golden timeline. I think it's going to be good for us on St. Patrick's Day to have this magical message of gold and hope and just this wonderful time we're going into. Guys, we're about to see things that are nothing short of magic in the mainstream. I know you don't believe me. I know it sounds crazy. Just give it time. We're about to see things that we never thought we'd see in our entire lifetime. And you think the Mandela effect's big, you just wait. The Mandela effect is going to be one of the things I think is going to be the catalyst that's going to make all these other things have no choice but to happen. I think the Mandela effect is going to time lock some events, going to make some switches, and change some things in reality that we've been waiting to see changed for a long time. And I'm just going to leave it at that. That is my final thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. I think we are in a golden age, a golden reality, a golden timeline, and it can only get better from here. Eileen Colts, our wonderful and amazing guest, we so very much appreciate you joining us tonight. It's been so much fun. What are your final thoughts?
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. It feels really good to be back with you guys. So I'll volunteer myself anytime you have an opening. Just let me know. I will pop on and chat with you. I love just opening up and talking about everything from like a really heart-based space. Like I feel safe in this group, and our chat rooms and the people we've gotten to know over the years feel like family now. So it's just a lovely community, and I'm so grateful to be part of it. And I'm taking a break from producing videos, but I'm doing Shane's intention meditations once a month. So I'm keeping my foot into the community, but I'm spending time now researching. I'm trying to research more of the ancient religions and metaphysical traditions, because I think they're going to come back to us. I think as the Mandela effect is opening up this magical world to us where anything is possible and everything can change, that it's kind of good to go back to like White Buffalo Woman and what that means to us now and the golden age. And, that's what I'm focusing on now is just trying to learn more of what our ancient ancestors knew, because we are in a magical time. And I think that gives us, the Mandela effect gives us an incredible amount of hope. It just means that whatever you desire and however you want this world to be, it can be, So that's my closing comment, is that we're all feeling really good about it. We're feeling that we're in a really good place.
I would 100% agree with that, Miss Eileen. I think the chat would also agree. I want to thank everybody who has stopped by in the chat today and tonight, and it's been absolutely wonderful having you guys here. The questions have been great. The comments have been great. We've had a solid number the whole time that have been sitting here hanging out with us. We so very much appreciate it. We will be doing these once a month, every month. This is only season 1, episode 2, so you can guarantee we've got a lot more to go. We're going to continue to track the golden timeline and all the wonderful, amazing, and fun things that we've got planned for you guys. It's only just beginning. So on behalf of Cynthia, Sue, Larson, Christopher, Anatra, the Quantum Businessman, Shane Robinson, Unbiased and on the Fence, Eileen, Colts, I'm Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And for IMEC International Mandela Effect Conference, we thank you for being here. And we wish you a wonderful, happy St. Patrick's Day and a golden timeline. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Much love.
Thank
Hey,
you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Love you guys.
Thank you.